Okay, this is to all those in the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm sorry, I gotta say this. But when do you guys stop thinking that humans weren't humans anymore? But what got it in your head thinking that you can behave the way you have been and it be okay? I know you guys are upset and angry about what's going on with the whole race thing and the violence that comes with it. I'm angry with it. But there's something that everybody's forgetting. The civil rights movements between 1896 and 1954 were a lot more peaceful. They were more goal-oriented. They had a clear, concise idea of what they wanted to have happen. And they did so with minimal violence. I'm not saying there wasn't any violence to speak of. But I am saying there were a lot less lives lost during that time than what we're seeing here. It's stupid. I don't care if the violence is coming from a cop. I don't care if the violence is coming from a protester. It's gotta stop. Enough is enough. How many more people have to die to satisfy what end? What are your goals? What are you fighting for? Equality? Because it doesn't sure seem like it. More people are dying regardless of their race than ever before. Not just from the pandemic, but from protesters who want to take violent acts on each other just for walking down the street. And then you want to say, Black Lives Matter. I can't breathe. Well, neither can I. It's so stifling in here. I can't even tell whether my head is standing up on, the ceiling or if my ass is. Come on. Somebody needs to pick up a history book and look what the civil rights movement did. It wasn't just blacks. It wasn't just whites. It was all those people that realized the inequality of the human race and decided to stand up as one people and one nation and told the U.S. that they were going to march down to Washington, D.C. if they didn't get what they wanted. Franklin Roosevelt had to look them in the face because not only was he looking at peaceful protesters who didn't fight, he had to look at them in the face because they weren't fighting. They were standing on his doorstep and they made a statement without words and without fighting. Take a look at Martin Luther King Jr. He said he had a dream that all peoples could have the same rights as each other. That it didn't matter whether you were black or white. Equality was equality. And that right should have been upheld. Are you trying to make him look like a joke too? Even he was a civil rights activist. And he proclaimed it loud and proud. But I guarantee you, as a civil rights activist, he never once used violence. He used what his God-given talent was. Words. And though they may have been simplified for their time, they spoke volumes. To this day, not a single person on this planet doesn't know the words of Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, I have a dream. Well, I have a dream too. And my dream is that these protesters get what they want. But they do it the way that Franklin Roosevelt did it, the way that Martin Luther King Jr. did it, not the way I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing humans act like animals. I'm seeing violence and I'm crying because so many lives are being lost and all of them probably got families. They got loved ones who are in tears. I don't care if you're black or white. I don't care what your race is. I'm just done with it. I'm done with seeing people die. Your race doesn't matter anymore. It don't.
It kills me. We got a pandemic and you guys are acting like you don't know what your head is going through. Like you've forgotten how to act like you're human. Like you've forgotten where your heart is. Or that you even have one. Everybody needs to just stop and sit down and take a look. Look at yourself and reflect. Take 10 seconds to say, should I be doing this way? And if your answer is no, then it's time to find a new way, isn't it? I care about each and every human on this planet. World War I, World War II, the Civil War. All of those happened to fight for what we stand for right now. To bring an equality that is necessary and that is just. And look what we're doing to ourselves. We're coming apart at the seams as if our brains have just suddenly taken leave of our body. What point does that serve? What problem does that solve? It doesn't solve shit. You're not standing together as one group in peace. You're using violence against violence to make it right. I'm sorry, I was raised in the South and I was taught that two wrongs don't make a right. If you want to make something right, you gotta do it the right way. This ain't it. Hurting each other ain't it. I'm done. None of y'all are human anymore. And what you fight for is a joke. You want to prove me wrong? Then bring it. Start showing me those movements. The same ones that the civil rights activists back in the day between 1896 and 1954 did. Show me that. Show me something that can be inspiring. They inspired awe. They inspired passion. They inspired change. If you want true change, that's the way to do it. But right now, all I'm seeing is the human race divided. That's all I see. One side's right, one side's wrong. Both are using violence. When are you guys going to step up and say enough is enough? When are you guys going to take a step back? Because I sure in hell ain't seeing it. You want to make a difference? Everything from the east to the west, everything from the north to the south. Y'all need to make one road trip. Go straight to D.C. Stand on Trump's doorstep together. Without violence. Without any of that bullshit. Arm in arm, regardless of your race, regardless of where you came from, regardless of what you stand for in religion, regardless of how tall you are, how short you are, how fat or skinny, what your skin color looks like, what language you speak, and stand as one mass, like a wave in a crowd in a sea of people, just like they did. When they marched as a sea of people. And they shouted with one voice, one wish that they had. Freedom. What's your wish? Y'all need to find your voice. Stand together, arm in arm, brothers and sisters. Doesn't matter what your skin tone is now. What you're fighting for is right. How you're fighting for it's wrong. You want to make a statement? It's time to make it. Show me you can stand together as one human race on DC's doorstep with no violence. Make the police officers fear you for the sheer numbers and not for the violence that it provokes. Numbers speak louder than in any amount of violence. Words speak volumes when they're shouted as one. Think about the Romans when they fought off millions. Yeah, their civilization fell. But at least they had one thing in common. They stood together arm in arm as brothers. Some of them weren't even from Rome. Some of them took Rome as their new home. Others liked the way the Romans lived. But they had one thing in common. They cared for the person that stood next to them. And skin color didn't matter. If you were standing side by side with them, you were a brother. You were a sister. You were a sibling to them. I'm seeing these movements, and I'm seeing more and more violence than I've ever seen before. Haven't we already lost enough with 150-something thousand already dead from the corona? We've exceeded World War II's numbers. Does that make you feel proud? That you've added to those numbers on top of that? Because I know it makes me feel ashamed when I see what the human race has done to itself. Message over.